All right, so funny story. We are in Spain. We went over there. We surprised my parents because they were coming back from South Africa for where my sister lives. They wanted to hit Spain because they've never done that, so they wanted to check that off their list. I'll spare the details on that, but my brother and I decided to go over and surprise them and then basically chaperone them through Spain. That's a whole nother podcast. But as part of that process, we did a winery tour. There's some really good wineries in Spain. And we go to one, and this was the first one of the day. And
what time was it?
I don't know. By the time we were checking out or leaving, it was probably 11-ish a.m.
All right. Okay.
So anyway, you're typically filling out the form, like, do you want to buy any or not, whatever. And the lady who's guiding us is kind of rushing us through because we're already kind of late for the next one. So my mom had looked at the list and had marked like the one she liked. So she put like 1 or 2 next to them.
Okay.
And then she handed it to me to fill out. And I was like, okay, I'll take care of it. I'll do the shipping paperwork with them, whatever. Well, later that night, we get to dinner and my mom she pulls me aside. She goes, how much wine did you buy? Because she gave me her credit card to just put it on there and we'd figure out, divvy it up later. She goes, how much wine did you buy? I go, well, what do you mean? I basically just did what you already had marked down there. She goes, how much was the wine? I go, what do you mean? You had like 7 cases. She goes, no, those were bottles. I'm like, Mom, they're not going to ship 1 bottle of this and one bottle of that.
Yeah.
I thought she meant cases.
Yeah.
So that's what I ordered.
So you ordered a vineyard that's showing up at the house.
Well,
someday.
not quite. But then I was like, thanks, Mom. Anyway. But by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, I'm not sure when this episode gets released, but by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, we should have a fair amount of wine to show up.
So when your dad asked you about that one, you're going to say it was your mom's idea?
Yeah, I'll leave that between them.
Okay.
But yes, if it gets to be, then yes, for sure. So we got some Spanish wine coming. And
nice.
We'll do a follow-up podcast, do a little taste test.
There we go. There we go.
Is this thing on? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Summits Podcast. Thank all of you guys for joining us from wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're watching on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel, thank you for tuning in. While you're doing so, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do so. It won't cost you a case of wine, I promise. You want to hit the little notification bell icon so you can be alerted when new episodes like this one drop. That would be great as well. And if you have any comments, what kind of wine do you like? Do you like Spanish wines? Do you like Italian wines or U.S. wines? Throw those comments in there on anything that comes up in the episode. We'd be happy to get back to you. All right, today we've got a new Heroes Foundation board member guest, Mr. Kevin Stewart from Centier Bank. Kevin, welcome to the Summits Podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll tell you what, why don't we start off with you giving us a little bit of background on yourself, kind of where you're from, and give us some details.
Sure. Yeah, grew up around the Muncie, Indiana area, okay. Yorktown to be specific. Moved down here with my wife now. At the time we were dating, moved down here. It's been, almost 18 years. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
18 years, moved down here. Started a career in banking at that time. Before that, I was working in school systems and coached basketball.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. I did that. So kind of got out of that, got into the banking career, and then I've been doing that ever since. So been around at a few different banks. Now I'm at Centier Bank, and I'm a business banker there. It's been a great place to work at, and really excited about what the future holds there. And found out through a connection about the Heroes Foundation through a BNI network.
Okay.
They had kind of explained to me what the Heroes Foundation was, connected me with Annie, and that's kind of how we got the ball rolling, how I ended up here.
Nice.
So
awesome.
Very excited to be part of it.
You said you were coaching. Was it basketball?
Yes.
You said? Okay.
Yes.
What drove you from the teaching coaching side to get into banking?
Really, it was just moving down here, and there wasn't as much opportunity at the time. There was a lot of things, too. I mean, on top of that, it's kind of becoming a thing now with all the sports, how much involved it is. I mean, it's a full-time job now. And
sure.
Doing that, and then also just dealing kind of like with that culture around it, like with parents and administrators, and was ready for a change. I mean, it was a welcome change. So.
Yeah, my youngest daughter is focusing more on softball now, but still plays basketball in high school, and we'd had a few seasons of AAU basketball.
Yeah.
Not hating AAU, just saying I witnessed a lot of very interesting things.
Yeah.
And that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I'm kind of going through my second cycle of it now because my daughter plays travel softball.
Okay.
She's 13. My son
Yep.
plays travel baseball. He's 8, and I'm coaching that team. So
Okay.
kind of going back around now a second time, but doing it with baseball and with my son. So
So
a lot
I'm
of
sure
fun.
you have seen a variety of interesting things as well.
Yeah, yeah, that could be a whole other podcast.
Yes, it can.
Yeah,
Yes.
just on that.
Here's my one little thing. So I'm a pretty competitive person. I played sports growing up as well. I never wanted to be that parent. And on occasion, a certain call is made or something's going on. I get a little energized, excited. I'm 100% confident now, even in my most excited state. I've seen so many parents who like I'm a choir boy in comparison, and I'm like, oh man, like my wife will look at me, she's like, I don't ever want you to be that guy.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think we're pretty safe.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could be that guy.
Coming from that coaching side, I can control it pretty well because I remember what it was like. So
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to be that dad.
No, and there's a
lot.
lot of examples.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
but anyway,
definitely.
as you'll find out.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of time. We're still in parent-led classes for a lot of the sports, so we're still figuring that out. So
Yep.
it'd be a little awkward if I was yelling at my kid who's right there next to me, who I'm also supposed to be helping, while there's a teenage coach just like, "What are you doing?"
It'll
So
be quick. They start them earlier and earlier
yeah.
now.
Yeah,
So.
We're
Yeah.
doing soccer right now.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
yep.
I did quickly learn too that as my kids were fairly young, I was trying to like coach them along and coach them up, if you will. At least that's what I thought I was doing. And ultimately, I was just way over, like giving them too much stuff.
Yeah.
And finally, someone said, "Hey, she's 7, and you just told her like 30 things she needs to do. Like, start
Yeah.
with 1."
Yep.
Yeah.
And finally, I was like, it took me a little bit longer, and I'm sure it was kind of a natural progression for a lot of dads, but like, it took me a while to finally say, yeah, okay, just let it be.
Yep.
She's not Michael Jordan. Never
yeah.
will be. Let it go.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's
Because
the hardest part. Is just
Oh.
to kind of sit there. I mean, even as coaches, we catch ourselves like,
Yeah.
what are we doing? We got to calm down. We're saying way too many things.
Right.
And
Yep.
There was a moment in maybe her first or second AAU season. There were 6th graders for the most part sitting in the stands, and I was not saying anything. And I'm listening to the parents around me talking about colleges already.
Wow.
And it was all I could do to bite my tongue because I'm looking at the floor, and I'm like, sorry, our team, all 10 girls are playing right now. First of all, there's 6th graders.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident that all 10, at least 9 of these 10, probably not going to play basketball in college.
yeah.
Yeah.
And here these parents are talking about colleges already. I'm like, whoa, let's just see if they can be the best 6th graders they can be.
Yeah.
But I digress. All right, so business banking with Centier.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. We're both business owners, certainly deal with our bankers. What aspect of the business banking do you enjoy the most?
Meeting business owners is learning about that journey.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't met hardly any that don't have some story of where they started off doing something else. Maybe this was kind of that secondary passion they had that they really wanted to get into, but wasn't that money maker. And as time went along, they figured out, okay, I can make this happen. And they start that business, and then seeing how that journey took them from where they started to where they are now.
Yeah.
And it's just coming across a lot of different industries, this random stuff too, that you
Right.
never even thought was going to be out there. And you hear about it, and you learn like, oh, wow, you started this up like out of your garage doing this, and this is where you're at now. Never would have thought that was like an industry where somebody could
Yeah,
get-
I was
get
hoping you
started
were
that
going to
way.
go there because, as we've learned, I mean, there's a lot of different ways people make money.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll come
Yeah.
across some random folks who have a ton of it, and you find out what they do, and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, just it's crazy and wild, and also encouraging to see that. And I know at least for our line of business, and I mean, you deal with a lot of different businesses, and you kind of basically hit on this. One thing that I think is cool is just seeing a lot of different industries, and number one, maybe in some cases, like for manufacturing, how things are made. Like I'm not an engineer, but whatever little ounce of engineering in me geeks out on seeing how things are made, and like who the hell came up with that idea.
Yeah.
But then also just seeing the variety of different businesses and markets and industries that are out there, and yet we all have very similar problems.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
And so, and I would think if you've already encountered, John or Jane Doe who's gone through the ringer on something, and now you have a new client or another client that is starting to experience the same thing, to be able to say, hey, none of us want to reinvent the wheel. I do know someone, here's kind of what they went through, what they experienced. Either I can share that with you or I can connect you with them to help learn from that, because none of us want to make the same mistake twice if possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially when it comes to like that cash flow piece where you're trying to expand. I mean, like you said, that's all relative. It has nothing to do with what industry you're in typically. It's just about finding that right balance to make it work. And
Now, is there a specific industry or business type that you find yourself gravitating towards, or do you just have a wide array of businesses that you work with?
With where I'm at now at Centier Bank, I mean, we're the Indiana's largest privately owned bank.
Okay.
So it's a family-owned bank, has been for over 125 years.
Wow.
So we have a lot more flexibility in what we can do. So really, that's where I'm out there. It's not really industry-based. It's just looking for that client that's the right fit that we can help. I've been at larger banks, and that is more targeted.
Yeah.
Where they only want
This
certain
area
type of industries
and size.
And even by your role, you might be like someone that only works in the medical profession. You might be someone that only is dealing with manufacturing. With where I'm at now, it's very just that wide net.
Okay.
Where I can take on, any client to look at as long as it makes sense and somebody that we can help and it works out for us too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let me ask you this, without naming names or getting specific, do you have a story of a banking relationship where you guys came in, you provided funding for, let's say, a new endeavor they want to do, whether it was an acquisition or they just want to expand or do whatever, and it just worked like a dream, like everything really, came to fruition, and everyone felt really good about the whole relationship?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes to that, like you're saying, at that starting point where we can provide maybe just that working capital, something to really help them where they have a vision. They've maybe been successful for 2 to 4 years, and they're saying, if I could just have a little bit more money where I could hire a couple people, increase my marketing, do anything here where I could pick up these 2 or 3 contracts that I'm bidding on that I think I can get. It's just going to take my business to the next level. And sometimes it's just something simple. It's like a small line of credit. Just gives them that extra flexibility and extra capital to get over the top.
Yeah. In particular, if they're willing to then let that person run with it.
Right.
One of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs is scaling, because a lot of times if they start out as a single shingle or just a couple people, we always have our hands in it. And you can only get so high with your hands and everything. You got to let people start to do the thing. That's the only way you can scale. And we've encountered enough people that have that challenge, and that's kind of that's what separates those that can just get to maybe $1 million in revenue to 10 million. It's a tough leap.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That would be interesting to see. All right, so kind of working our way back to Heroes, you got connected through a networking group, and then ultimately met with Annie, our executive director, to talk about what the foundation is and what we're doing. I guess there's a lot of different causes out there, all of which are very worthy. What attracted you to the Heroes Foundation?
Yeah, I know everybody has that story now, how they've been touched by cancer. Sure. I don't know a friend that hasn't been or anything like that, but our family has been. My mother-in-law passed away in her early 60s due to cancer. And then a few years ago, my best friend, his wife, passed away in her 30s due to cancer.
Wow. And
it was just one of those things, specifically with her. We were together that summer. We had went on one of those like Bruise Bust tours, everybody hanging out, having fun. That was in like August. And then right before Thanksgiving, she just gets ill. Couldn't figure out what it is, all Thanksgiving break. Finally went and got tested, and she had cancer. And I think, she didn't even make that 12 months then from that diagnosis. It was stage 4. And so just watching what she went through, what that families went through, and until to this day, they both had young kids, and so that was something that just really kind of touched me, and something that I've always thought, if there's a way that we can get involved and help, that would be where I would want to focus that energy. And so when that opportunity came along and met with Annie, I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity for me to be able to kind of give back and do what I always thought would be an opportunity to help out.
Sure. Well, we greatly appreciate you considering us and thinking about doing that, and then actually taking that step to get involved. To hear about someone in their 30s being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer is a tough pill to swallow. We've got some other stories. In fact, we have another episode of a 20-something-year-old stage 4 lung cancer. Never smoked a cigarette in her life. As we now know, there are other ways of getting lung cancer, but those are the stories that keep people will ask me like, why are you still doing this after 20 some odd years? Like, it's because of the stories like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I still keeping the profanity out of it still tick me off.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is BS. We got to do something about it. So that's kind of what fuels it. And I think, what I hear in you is the same type of deal. Like, why did my best friend lose his wife in her 30s? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if there's something we can do together to join forces and improve upon what we're doing, then let's do it.
Exactly.
To your point, you said you don't know anyone that hasn't been touched by it, and as you'll find out in January at our gala, in many years in the past, and I don't know if I do it every single year, but pretty close. I always say, either stand up or raise your hand if you've ever been affected by cancer, whether you've been diagnosed yourself or you have a family member, friend. Like, if there's 600 people in the room, if there aren't 600 hands up, I'd be shocked.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it touches all of us. It is what I like to call the ultimate non-discriminatory actually had a breakfast meeting this morning. We talked about that, where it affects everyone, regardless of age, race, gender, like whatever. There are examples of it hitting everyone. And there's 100 plus different forms of cancer, and sadly it hits just about everyone in some way, shape, or form. So we appreciate you not only wanting to support the foundation, but giving back by joining the board.
Yeah.
That's great. And we know Centier Bank has also stepped up to start supporting. That's awesome. So we appreciate everybody at Centier Bank for you guys supporting the Heroes Foundation as well. We know Centier's based out of northwestern Indiana, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Out of the Maryville area.
Maryville,
right there.
okay.
Maryville,
So
Crown
the
Point.
region.
The region.
Yeah.
We like to call it. Yeah, that's cool. Well, here's why also they say that's great, because while we are born and bred out of Indy and pretty central Indiana focused, we know that our ultimate goal is to do more throughout the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
And so I think as we get to know you better and get to know Centier Bank better, that there will be some natural introductions, I think, in the region area that we don't have today. And that's what's going to help us kind of better fulfill our mission throughout the state of Indiana. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, and it really aligns with what Centier Bank is about. The Schrock family is the family that's been in ownership since its inception, and Mike Schrock, the current bank president, they encourage us in every shape and form to be out in our communities, to give back to stuff like this. Anything that we can do to help, that's what they want to make sure as Centier employees we're doing that. They encourage us to give us time off, and it's really a focus of, there's sales, and there's also, being an active member of the community. And I really feel like Centier pushes being an active member in the community first.
Right.
And everything, while still being a successful, profitable company.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I think we're all in different businesses, but let's face it, it's a relationship game.
Yes.
Yep.
Sure, there are some people out there trying to sell you this glass of water and that's it. But ultimately, my experience, I don't want to sound like the old man at the table, but it is all based on relationships.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
100%. And so I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what you're describing. Yep. For sure. Yeah. Cool. Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you a question to then turn around and ask us a question. And that is, do you have any questions about the foundation, or is there anything that you would like to see as a new board member that, either you want to be educated more on about the Heroes Foundation, or things you would like to see us start doing that maybe we don't do today?
I think the question I would have, and I think most people, when I'm out and I tell somebody, I'm part of this great foundation now, is just keeping that backstory of where it started.
Yeah.
And I know you can find that information, but I think that's important to always keep learning, being able to spread that message of why the Heroes Foundation is where it is today.
Sure.
And where that starting point came from. I know, like you're talking about relationship stuff. That's why we always talk about with our bank, where we started and everything, because that's important to understand. And I think that's a huge key with this, because there's so many foundations out there, and it's important to tell our message, our story, and why we want to partner with everybody in the community, and why someone would want to choose to partner with us and everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's that educational piece, and just getting to know. I know that's deep with you and everything, and getting to understand that story moving forward. Crafting
your elevator pitch,
yes,
if you will.
Exactly.
Now, if someone asks you about Centier Bank, you don't even think, it just rolls right off. Now it's natural. So that's great. I appreciate you asking that, and we want to help you develop that as well.
Yep.
So I'm happy to have that conversation with you, and everyone's elevator pitch is maybe a little bit different, because there's certain aspects of the foundation that might resonate with them either a little bit more or a little better than others. But I think, for us, and I don't want to go in too long-winded. We can talk about this off camera, but to help develop whatever it is that you want to share. But ultimately, I look at us as kind of we're still a 24-year-old startup.
Yep.
And some people say, well, how is that possible? Well, because it's just kind of the way it's been.
Yeah.
And it's not good or bad. It just is what it is. We're a 24-year-old startup, but the questions we're getting now as we get ready to celebrate our 25th anniversary, people are saying, holy crap, like, Vince, how are you still doing this 25 years in? I said, well, I hate cancer.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
It's a pretty strong motivator.
I hate, usually I use another adjective in there, but I hate cancer as much today as I did 25 years ago when I was diagnosed. And it's less about my story. It's more about, we just talked about like your best friend's wife, or your mother-in-law, or a friend of mine whose 20-something-year-old daughter gets diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Like when I hear that, dude, it makes my blood boil.
Yeah.
And so, like any business startup, there's foundations and there's businesses that start up every day.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them make it and some of them don't. And a lot of them go 2, 3, 4 years. And a lot of them are started based on a similar reason we were. Like I had my particular personal situation and it motivated us to do something, and those happen every day, and they get 2, 3, 4 years into it and they're like, oh man, that's a lot of work, or for whatever reason it just fizzles out.
Yep.
I think it's that, going back to the sports, it's that competitiveness. It's the, I'm reading a book now called Grit. And I should rehearse this line because I've now used it in a couple of emails in the last couple of weeks. It's persistence plus passion equals grit.
Okay.
So there's no question I have the passion about wanting to do something to beat cancer. And in some cases, I'm persistent to a fault. And that's what it takes for a business or a foundation to succeed, is that persistence to continue to work on achieving that mission. And so for us, I think that's why, and doing this as a side hustle. I mean, this is not my, I make no money from this. This is not it has anything to do with my income. I think that's what has allowed us to get to this point. And I guess maybe the business side, that background knows that, look, it takes money to make money.
Yep.
And there's some segment of the population out there that think foundations should have, no overhead and don't invest in anything and whatever. I'm not going to get in that argument, but like, we're now at a point where we have some employees. We know we've gotten to the 25-year mark because of hard work and a lot of volunteers and whatnot. How do we get to the next 25 years? How do we get to that 50th anniversary celebration? I don't know if I'll be here when that happens.
Right.
I hope I am. But I think ultimately, whether the three of us are still around when that happens, like, we know that cancer's still going to be here, whether we like it or not. However, we hope that the work we do over the next 25 years is going to reduce the occurrences, improve the treatment options, make some of those treatment options less traumatic, less debilitating to the patient, and continue to work on the education piece. So if you look at our logo that pops up there, people say, what are the 3 triangles? Well, we call them the summits. They're mountaintops. We're climbing the summit to beat cancer. And those 3 represent all our 3 pillars, which are prevention, support, and research. Okay. And everything is focused on the state of Indiana. We're cancer type agnostic. So I have blood cancer, so it would have been easy for me to say, hey, we're going to fight blood cancers. But my mom's a breast cancer survivor. The 2 stories you just mentioned are probably 2 different types of cancers. Like, there's 100+ different types of cancers. And for me, like, cancer just sucks, period. All of them.
Yep.
So I realize we can't be everything to everyone, but we're going to do whatever we can to battle cancer in Indiana. And as we've kind of gone down the research path, this is an interesting story I wanted to share because, again, I could go on and on. But when we decided to get into research, I think we had maybe $25,000. In the world of research, like, that's nothing.
Right.
I mean, it takes millions or really billions of dollars. But we sat and we chatted with a few people, both researchers as well as some development people. And I think we talked with IU first. And we said, hey, we've got $25,000 we want to put into research. What can that possibly do? And they're like, actually, it can do a lot. I'm like, okay, educate me. Dr. So-and-so has a hunch or an idea. Well, they just can't go out and get a $2 to $5 million grant based on this random idea they haven't done anything with. They need to prove some of those things out first. Well, in order to do that, they have to get lab time. They have to buy supplies. They might have to hire some people, some personnel to help do that. Like, that takes time and it takes money, like everything else in this world. So I guess you think of ourselves like an angel investor into Dr. So-and-so's hunch. So we invest that 25 grand in the hopes that they are able to then prove or disprove that initial hunch. And if they prove out what they were hoping to, then they can take that data and then go after that $1 million or $2 million or $5 million or whatever grant. Great example. There was a researcher who was doing, some pediatric cancer research. And pediatric cancer research is sorely underfunded, and that's a whole nother podcast too. But we helped fund his hunch, and he super charismatic guy, off the charts, smart. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But when we had funded his thing, his project, and he had started to prove out some things and was looking really promising, and ultimately he went on to get one of those larger grants. He invited the board to come into his lab. So we all went down there, and he was explaining what he was working on. Of course, half of us were like, I have no idea what you just said. Way over my head. And he could tell that. He's like, okay, everyone come here. And so he got, his monitor and kind of positioned it so as everyone could kind of see. And he put up this, I think it was a slide, or put up some image of these cancer cells. He's like, all right, I'm going to introduce this new therapy we've been working on. Just watch the screen. And you're old enough. You remember the old school like Atari Asteroids game? Like literally, he injects this therapy, and you see these cancer cells kind of grow, and then all of a sudden, like almost like shake, and then explode. Okay. And I was like,
yeah,
like I get it
makes
now.
Sense.
Like that was awesome. If that's what you're working on, we're in.
Okay.
I wish, that hindsight's 2020, right? I wish we had recorded that and could use that because, the layman's were standing there and watching it and was just like, okay, I get it. Like that, that's awesome. So little stories like that have been built up over the years. I'm not really answering your question. I'm probably feeding you way more than you need to know, but like, we'll help you craft what that message is. And then over time it's going to roll off like it does if someone's asking you about Centier Bank. I just think it's exciting because we're still at a point where everyone can make a difference. Everyone can help shape who and what the Heroes Foundation is going to be. If you look from a research perspective, yes, the IU School of Medicine is the only school of medicine here in the state, or certainly the largest. But research is being done at Purdue. I didn't even know that until a couple years ago. Research is being done at University of Notre Dame, which I didn't realize. We have 3 incredible institutions here in the state, and that's not to say that several other universities in the state aren't doing anything. But we have a lot of opportunity. And so I think the sky's the limit for where the Heroes Foundation can grow. And we're kind of in that stage now of going from startup, if you will, to kind of starting to put our big boy, big girl pants on and passing that baton. Like I can't run it in perpetuity. It's got, if we want it to really be here 25 years from now, it's got to be taken over and run on its own and all that. So I think the vision's in place. The mission certainly is in place. And now we're getting, new blood in and folks like the two of you guys on the board to help steer us in that direction and get, additional corporate partners to help out. Really, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's exciting. I mean, obviously it's not, something that we want to be excited about for what, but I mean, the fact that, there's those larger organizations that are great and everything, but it's something a little bit more, I think, fulfilling to be part of something like that and be part of that growth piece to it. And really see it take off. Yeah. You
just said it like, so we've had this conversation. I'm not going to get into this because that'll probably ignite the comments. But looking at these call it the smaller, maybe more nimble organization, whether it's talking about Heroes or even a business, versus the big, public company or the big, large national nonprofit, is it we can try new things. We try new things all the time. Sometimes they don't work, and we learned. Don't do that again. Let's go in a different direction. And I think we still have enough room for growth and influence from folks like yourselves to help shape that, all in the name of trying to do, live up to our mission, fulfill what we're going after. I think that's what's exciting. I think that excites both board members or new board members like yourselves to potential donors, whether they're individual donors or corporate donors. I think they like seeing that we kind of have that entrepreneurial mindset.
definitely.
I think one of the biggest things is being able, there's a lot of opportunity to get your hands involved with Heroes from either a business, board member, new sponsor, anything along those lines, in a way that you can immediately see the impact of the time, the dollars, and what you're doing as a partner with Heroes for their different missions. Like it's like about in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to Paint Manny's Children's Hospital to dress up in a mascot costume. I think it's either going to be a Minion or Paw Patrol. I'm not certain, but it's going
awesome.
to the pediatric oncology.
I hope it's a Minion.
That's what everyone at the office is hoping for too. So we're doing a Lego drive right now. Where we're going to be in costume, handing out those Legos to patients. That it's something that's going to make their day, and that's something that I don't know that. And again, not a knock on anything else. It's just a different way of how you can see what your involvement means. Like that you can watch that Lego set that you donated be handed off to a patient that it's going to make their day type situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's really impactful.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't done it before, so it's going to be the first time. I've been there
Kevin, I
a
would
few
encourage
times,
you at some point to go on a Lego give as well. You don't necessarily have to dress up as a Minion.
but just be there.
Go on one of the
yeah.
Lego gives and you see, I mean, it sounds bad, but when you see a sick child lined up with one of these things, like, boom, you're hooked.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
It's a very cool experience, and so I highly encourage any of our board members or anyone else, volunteers as well, if you've not participated in one of our Team Joey Lego gives and pizza parties, find an hour or so to do so.
Okay.
It's rewarding. It's worth the time. For sure.
I feel fortunate that I'm going to be behind a mask, so like when I'm bawling,
That's what I was
handing
gonna
this
say. I
out,
think I
no one
might
can
want
see
to
it.
also.
Well,
Yeah.
and you're not going to scare the kids either.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. When I get out, that suit's gonna be really hot. It's all sweat. It's all sweat. Yeah, just sweating from my eyes.
That's funny. All right, cool. Anything else we can answer for you or provide some guidance on at all?
I don't think so right now. I mean, that's
Okay.
awesome. Like, I wasn't even aware
Yeah.
of that. I mean, I would love to be part of something like that. That'd
Yep.
be great.
Well, I'll let you know if we don't have enough filled up for a couple weeks from now. We may
Yeah.
hit you up and say, "Come on,
Yeah, let me
come on
know.
over, show up." Can always
Yeah.
use more hands.
We do those
Yeah.
throughout the year, so if that one's already stacked, then
Yep.
we've got plenty of others coming up.
Shout out to
so.
Kelly.
Yeah,
Does an
Kelly
awesome
Canada
job
runs
doing
that
that.
for us.
Yep.
Does a
Okay.
great job. So, all right, cool. Well, Kevin, thanks again for taking the time to pop in, and
Sure.
thanks again for joining the Heroes Foundation board. We appreciate your and the Centier's Bank's support. That's huge, and we look forward to continuing to grow.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of it. So
welcome. Yeah.
Very grateful. Thank you.
All right. And thank all you guys for joining us on this episode of the Summits Podcast. We appreciate you guys joining us from wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're tuning in on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel, thank you for tuning in. And we will see all of you guys next time on the next episode. Again, hit that notification bell icon so you can be alerted when it drops. And don't forget, all this is in the name of BeatCancer.